everybody. Peter Greenberg here with another global travel update for the 13th of January, 2026, coming to you from New York. It's been a very busy couple of days. Last week, as you know, we did the global travel update from Carmel in California, from the Carmel Mission Inn, then up to Seattle, where I spoke at the Travel and Adventure Show, then the red eye back to New York with a stop in Charlotte. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. And now coming to you from New York City. Happy to join you and happy that you're joining me. All you have to do is blink your eyes, and there's another airline merger or a consolidation, and this week was no exception. Late Sunday, they announced that Allegiant is buying Sun Country. Now, that may not have a big impact on you, but it will have a big impact on the market and where they fly to in terms of airfares. We already know that Alaska last year bought Hawaiian, and that's changed the landscape dramatically in terms of the aircraft they're using and where they're flying. We have the continuing merger talks. They call it a merger. I don't know if it will be a merger or an absorption between Frontier and Spirit. And of course, the initially announced in 2025 sort of partnership between United and JetBlue, which may blossom into something much more dramatic this year. And we're just getting started because overseas, you have other airlines like TAP in Portugal and Condor in Germany that are both excellent airlines that may be taken over as well. So 2026 will continue the year of consolidation, not just with airlines. Get ready for hotels. Marriott right now has, and I'm probably under by one, 42 separate brands. Can you name them? If you work for Marriott, you probably can. Whether you work for Marriott or not, can you differentiate them? Hilton's got 25. IHG's got 20. And they're adding to these every week. There's going to be a shakeout. If you can't define your brand, you can't justify your rates. And the question is, are the hotels now just doing real estate deals, and are the airlines just flying banks with credit cards and mileage? That's a rhetorical question. The answer is yeah. So get ready for that happening. And when you have that kind of consolidation, in the long run, it doesn't benefit us because the capacity gets restricted and either airfares or hotel rates go where? Up, sometimes stratospherically. So there's that. Speaking of finance and airlines, Delta just announced their earnings, and it was a very significant number for another reason. They announced a $5 billion profit. Good for them, right? But here's the interesting thing, and it speaks to what I've been talking about for a while. But they sold $1.1 billion less in economy seats. They're selling the front of the plane at a premium all around the world. And what that means is your opportunity for an upgrade just left. And this is all the airlines. And let me give you a story that just happened to me yesterday morning. Before we show the graphic, don't go to it yet, Anthony. I was flying, as I said, from Seattle to LaGuardia with a stop in Charlotte. And planes were full. It was Sunday. I have mileage status. Boy, lucky me. I get to the airport in Charlotte. And remember, I've always said this. If everybody has status, nobody has status. Well, I get to the gate. It's an Airbus 319. Let me tell you the configuration of that plane. Only 8 seats in the front and everybody else in the back. All right. So now I get to the gate and I'm like number 4 for the upgrade. But before I ever got there, in fact, before I ever left Seattle, something else happened. I got an email from American, and so did everybody else on that plane, regardless of their status. And by the way, Delta's doing this as well, and United's doing it. And what would the email say? Hey, would you like to upgrade your flight to New York? And they offered me like $50. For $50, I could sit up front. But it wasn't just me. It was everybody they were offering to who didn't even have status. So that asked the rhetorical question, what's the point of status, right? You want to see what the point of status is? All right, get ready. We're not going to show you the graphic yet until I set it up. I get to the gate. I look up at the departure board, and I'm no longer number 4. I'm like number 9, but we're just getting started. take a look at the number of people with status standing by for an upgrade on that flight that never existed in the first place. Go. Can you zoom in there and take a look at that? 60 people standing by for no available upgrade to begin with. Boy, do we feel special, right? And we've seen examples where Delta Airlines has been offering upgrades for as little as $26. So if you're still out there chasing miles, here's my stupid question. What's the point? What's the point? There is no point. The airlines have reached an inflection point which they can't retreat from simply because they're making so much money in front of the cabin, vis-a-vis the Delta earnings report, which we'll see with American and United to a lesser extent, but it's still there when they issue their reports. It's just unbelievable. Okay, so now, at the same time, speaking of upgrades, let's talk about the seats themselves that are in the back of the plane. In the last 5 years, Delta, American, and Southwest and United have decreased legroom in coach by up to 5 inches. Now, that may not seem like enough or like a lot until your knees are wrapped around your neck. So here's your double whammy. They've decreased the space in coach. Southwest is just doing that. Remember, January 27th, it's coming up. No more open boarding. It's going to be assigned seating with premium seats towards the front of the plane with a little more legroom. Everybody else, a little less legroom. And if you want to know how many seats they're cramming in the planes, how many of you have flown on an American Airlines 737 MAX? You probably have. You didn't realize it, but you have. If you need to go to the lavatory on the flight, and I am not making this up, try it for yourself. When you go in that door, you open the door to the lavatory. Yes, there's still a toilet in there. What do you know? And there's still a little bitty sink. Here's my challenge to you. It is physically impossible for you to wash both hands in the sink at the same time. Try that out. That's how much space they're giving away to cram more seats in the plane to generate more revenue. And let me remind everybody that back in 2018, the United States Congress mandated the FAA to come up with a reasonable and safety-minded standardization of seats so that in the event of an emergency, people could safely evacuate the plane. The FAA ignored them then, and they've ignored them for the last going on 8 years. In my book, that's criminal negligence. Good luck getting out of a plane in the event of an emergency when you're already wedged in there. So something to think about. Okay, but we're not done yet. So this morning, I'm flying in a couple of days. And again, they're auctioning off the seats for the upgrade. If you're watching me now and you're holding a credit card that's linked to a particular airline mileage program, you might want to burn that card. It's not doing you any favors. It's at 26% interest, and you're chasing miles that you either can't redeem or the redemption levels are so huge, it's an insult. I talked about that last week. Then, I have a question for everybody. Did you make New Year's resolutions? Come on, did you? Have you broken them already? I mean, it's already January 13th. Let me tell you what I do. I don't make any New Year's resolutions because when you think about it, if I were to make a New Year's resolution, it would be to quit all my bad habits. But then, let's face it, nobody likes a quitter. Anyway, that's my out. But next week, when we do GTU, Global Travel Update, I'm going to give you my annual awards for stupidity, and I'm going to give you my hopeful New Year's resolutions, what I'd like to see in 2026 from airlines, hotels, cruise lines, rental cars, taxis, and hotels. You get it. It'll be there next week. So stand by for that. Let's say hello to a couple of people here. Linda saying hi from Chile, Naples. She says, last week you spoke of your wife's flights to Turkey. You called some people you know to find out what was going on. Can you give advice for people without these connections? No, I didn't call any double secret numbers. I called the main reservation number for American and was put on hold for 40 minutes. Then they called me back and couldn't help me. Then my wife got on the phone with me. She was at the airport and literally had me on the phone with the counter agent at British Airways. No help. American Airlines, no help. I then sent her down to the baggage office at Kennedy. Triple Crown, no help. And then with my wife literally crying about this, by the way, you would too, she finally got, I take no credit for this, one woman in American who realized somebody had to take responsibility. Her name was Valeria. And she finally physically walked in the back, found the bags that had been sitting there for 24 hours. Because remember, American Airlines, didn't cancel the flight. They delayed it for 24 hours. You know, that's a lie. And she finally walked it over to the British Airways flight within 10 minutes of shutting all the doors and got the bags where they needed to go. This is not the way you recover. This is not the way you do service to begin with. So, and then for those of you who didn't hear the story, to add insult to injury, they sent my wife as a consolation prize 20,000 miles that she can't redeem for anything. This is how airlines deal with it, because there are no consequences financially to bad behavior, because the current administration killed that DOT proposal that was put forth in the last days of the Biden administration to give us what? Some passenger rights. What a concept. So that's where we are with that. Okay, now a couple of other things before we go and say hello to everybody else. This past weekend I spoke in Seattle at the Travel and Adventure Show. You're going to see me speaking next weekend, the 24th and the 25th, right here in New York at the Javits Center. There you go. And then following that in Chicago. South Florida means Fort Lauderdale. Go back to that graphic, Anthony, if you can. We just lost it. Hopefully it'll come back. There it is. Then Los Angeles. That'll be in Long Beach, Santa Clara, Dallas, and Denver. We'll keep on top of that. I was able to say hello to some folks in Seattle that were nice enough to come out to see me, who are regulars on GTU. So thank you for doing that. Appreciated that time. And of course, we'll do that again on all of the talks that I'm doing around the country. Okay, one of the things that we posted that I thought you'd like to see, what did I just talk about? Service. Airlines don't distinguish themselves in terms of great service when they provide the service. I'll take that as a hopeful given. Where they distinguish themselves is when something goes wrong, and it's how well, how quickly, how sensitively, and how fast they recover. And recently we went up and did a story about one airline to our north, otherwise known as Air Canada, that had a huge problem with customer service because of ridiculous rules and the airline not giving their frontline people the flexibility, the discretion, and the authority to fix problems when they happen. So check that out. We'll post the link. It's running online right now. Our piece on how Air Canada is trying to turn things around. I think you might find that interesting. Speaking about turning around, which of the airlines are the most on time? Meaning, which airlines arrive within 15 minutes of scheduled gate arrival time? Not landing time, gate arrival time. Okay, you ready? Numero uno. That should give you a hint when I speak Spanish. It's Aeromexico. They had an on-time performance, quite laudable, of over 90%. And that's for the second year in a row. Regionally, in North America, it was Copa, the Panama carrier. They do such a great job based in Panama City, Panama. Also at 90%. In second place, a surprise, Saudia. That's right, based in Riyadh at 86%. In Asia, Philippine Airlines, good for them. In the US, it was Delta at 80% of the time. That means 1 out of every 5 of their flights is not on time. And the most improved airline would be Virgin Atlantic. Last year, meaning 2024, only 74% of its flights were on time. That's less than 1 in 4. This past year, they jumped to 83%. That's a pretty big jump. One other thing I want to share with you. Remember I told you about chasing miles? with those credit cards at 26% interest. United and Southwest are now coming out with a debit card where you earn miles. Please listen to me. Never use your debit card for any travel purchases. The minute you check into a hotel and they ask for a credit card to put on file, they automatically block charges for up to the number of days you're there. And those are, if you're using a debit card, that's not a hold on your card. That's an immediate withdrawal from your debit card of whatever set amount the hotel wants to block without telling you. Good luck getting it back in your account within 10 hours. They take it out within 10 minutes. So do not use a debit card to chase miles. Not a good idea. Okay? All right. And not only that, these debit cards can sometimes come with transaction fees and lesser reward levels. It's a lose-lose situation. Okay. Let's scroll down and say some more people. Jim and Harriet is always checking in from Richmond, Virginia. By the way, I'm going to be in Richmond in March. No, I take that back. Next month, I'm going to be in Richmond speaking at the Educational Travel Conference Summit in February. So I'll look forward to seeing you there. We'll probably do the GTU from Richmond. Priya's in Chicago. Paul is saying greetings from Ashland, Virginia. Camilla is always on board from Tucson. Judy's saying hi from Scottsdale. Sid is saying, hello from Thailand. Sawadee ka. Jean is in Tulsa. Lois is saying Bainbridge Island, not far from where I was a couple of days ago. John Lample, who's always traveling, more than I do, I think. Hello from rainy London. It's Maria's birthday today, John's wife. Happy birthday, Maria. Jeff is saying, where's the most beautiful place you've been to where photos couldn't capture the feeling? Well, I'm going to have to give you a qualified answer, Jeff, because I like to think of myself as a pretty good photographer. And what defines, to many people, a good photographer is when you get a chance to wait for the light, to wait for that moment, not shooting the pyramids at noon, right? Those magic hours, of 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock at night, or on the late afternoon or dusk. So if I'm talking about a place that really couldn't capture the feeling, wow, that's a tough one, because I always wait. I really will wait for that moment, because otherwise I'm doing the place a disservice and the photo sucks. But let me give that some thought. All right. I don't have an immediate answer for you. Paul says, speaking of Marriott, I was in DC over the holiday. The Key Bridge Marriott is gone. I think it was one of the original properties. Well, Paul, it was the original property. Well, where Bill Marriott's father opened it up, and they kept it. If you look at the whole history of Marriott, it wasn't opened as a hotel. It was opened as a soda shop. It was a malt shop. But the Key Bridge was their first hotel back outside of DC, way, way back when. And yes, it's finally gone. Okay, Lois says a 10-hour flight from Paris on Air France, crammed in a window economy, only 9 inches from my knees to the seat in front. Well, I got to tell you, Lois, 9 inches, you were styling. Try that on Spirit or Frontier. It's more like 5. And if the person reclines their seat in front of you, not that those seats recline, let's be honest, you got a problem. All right. The least, Jim and Harriet says, the least the airlines can do is offer you a shoehorn. Yes, I know. An industrial strength spatula might be helpful too. Okay. This is interesting. And I happen to like this idea, right? President Trump is proposing, although it's not a full proposal yet, and it's been a long time in coming. I can't see it happening because the banking lobby is so strong, but it's a great idea. Honestly, he wants to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. Yes, I can get behind that, and so can all of you. However, what are the banks saying? What are the airlines saying? Here's that double-edged whammy, that if that goes through, they might eliminate frequent flyer rewards. You know what? No, they won't. They make too much money from it already. Even at 10%, they're literally banking humongous amounts of money. But I wish, on this one, I wish the president all the luck in the world. I think we could all get behind the idea of a 10% cap on credit card interest. Remember, folks, under current law, if I loaned any of you money at 26%, which is the average credit card interest rate right now, I go to prison. But the banking lobby has been allowed under law to charge up to 30%. That means if you buy something for $100 and you don't pay the bill that month, guess what? That's $30. And it's compounded into the next month. It rolls over. It's exponential and terrible. So obviously, Linda, we will follow this because I absolutely support that idea. Galen says, I've had Delta medallion status for years, have never received an upgrade. No problem. Just buy it for $26 and forget your status. Seriously, we've reached that point of inflection, and I feel your pain. Hello, Charlie from Baton Rouge. Okay. Paul says, what is the break-even point in total flight time that would make one book the back of the plane to save money? 1 hour, 2 hours, or never do it? Well, I just flew. Where was I flying? Oh, yeah. I flew from Doha to LA, and I was in the back of the plane. That's 14 and a half hours. And you know what? I'm still living. Remember why we fly? Honestly, I go back to my college days when I used the center seat tray table as my rest, my pillow. Just get some good headphones, and crank up your playlist. Download all your Netflix and your Amazon and your Apple TV stuff. An airline seat is just an airline seat. My goal in life is to fly from point A to point B and not die. That's it, right? I'm not on for the food. We all know better than that. I'm not on for the wine list. I never drink alcohol on the plane. I'm not on for the entertainment on board. I'm on to go from A to point B. And when I land and somebody says, did you have a nice flight? I only have the same 2 words every time. We landed. What a concept. So business class and first class, we all aspire to it, but with remarkably few exceptions, it's overrated. A $16,000 ticket from New York to Cape Town on Delta is not a ticket. It's a Toyota. The money can be put to better use. I'll survive. I did it all through college. I do it today, right? I have so many of my friends, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, that if Los Angeles were being invaded by outer space aliens and there was only one flight out, they'd end up getting eaten by the aliens because they'd still be standing at the counter going, oh, but I wanted a business class seat. No, get on the plane. Realize why you're flying in the first place. By the way, speaking of flying, especially in the back of the plane, we ran this last week, but I want to run it again. My new favorite app is Flighty. We're going to show you in the year 2025, this is where I went and how many times I flew. Run it. you dizzy yet? I was on 134 airplanes, and I'm still alive. And that middle seat tray table was my savior. By the way, it's probably going to be just that many flights this year, if not more, with less legroom and more delays. But we're going to do our best. Operational liability is not necessarily our friend, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So the answer to your question, Paul, the break-even point is your wallet. Okay, we've linked the Air Canada customer service piece. When you want to see it, you can link onto that. Rashid is saying, greetings from Islamabad. Okay, hello, Pakistan. Bruce Siegel saying, another great pink day. That's a shameless plug for his hotel, the Colony in Palm Beach. Nice to see you, Bruce. Camilla's saying Tahiti. Are you trying to say, Camilla, that it didn't do justice to the photos? Let me know. Priya says, is it too early to book tickets to Rome from Chicago for Labor Day? No, it's not, because the dynamics have changed. You remember the old days where you used to book at midnight on Tuesday night to get the best deal? That's out the window. The algorithms don't work anymore. They can't project demand. They can't set prices that way. Unless you know a specific day, like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or President's Day weekend, July 4th, Labor Day, Memorial Day, Christmas and Thanksgiving, if you know when you want to go to Rome, and you mentioned Labor Day, but Labor Day doesn't matter in Rome. They don't celebrate Labor Day. So go online, get the cheapest fare you can. You might want to go to Google Flights because they can track it for you. Once you book the tickets, if the fare comes down, they alert you. And if you book it on a U.S. carrier, guess what? You cancel that flight. You get a full credit for that amount. Then you apply that credit to the lower fare, and you get a residual credit that you can use for the next year. The only caveat I have to tell you is that year starts ticking to use the credit from the moment you buy the flight, not when you were scheduled to fly. So if you buy a ticket now for Labor Day, that's 8 or 9 months away. You cancel the flight, you get a residual credit. You've got what? 2 to 3 months to use it. Okay? Depending on when you cancel it. Just saying. All right. Evelyn's saying hello from Halifax. We love Halifax. Anybody going to Halifax, you got to go to the Maritime Museum. I mean, people forget that's where the Titanic was heading, and they have great artifacts there. Also, an amazing disaster in Canadian history is actually chronicled there and acknowledged there and honored there. Probably the worst explosion in a harbor you will ever see, short of what happened in Beirut a couple of years ago. It happened in Halifax. You need to go see that to see what happened to that city, who were the heroes, how they survived, and what they learned from it. Also, one of my favorite restaurants is in Halifax, the Bicycle Thief. So check that out as well. All right. My old pal, Ruth Ann Becker from Dallas, but I knew Ruth Ann Becker from Honolulu. When will I be in Dallas? I'm coming to speak. Anthony can post that up again. But if you go to Travel and Adventure Shows on the web, you'll see, there it is. I'm in Dallas, March 29th, if that's helpful to you. Okay? That's what I'm speaking in Dallas. Tom saying, good seeing you in Cannes. And right back to you, Tom. All right, Tanzania is just checking in. Bruce Siegel says, I was on a flight from Islip to West Palm Beach last night. Only 24 passengers on board. Have not been on a flight to anywhere with only 24 passengers, especially northeast to Florida in January. One reason is no foreign tourists. How about that? All right. Here we go. Okay. Camilla says, do I remember Aero Continente? I was an agent fam to the Amazon in December 1999. Man, were those seats tight. Yeah, we always remember those seats. Yep. You need to capture the gorgeousness of Tahiti. You're right. When you come back from Tahiti, by the way, which, by the way, also applies to the Indian Ocean, your friends are going to ask you, because the colors are so vibrant, they're going to ask you, what kind of filter did you use on your camera? And you have to tell them, no filter at all. It really does look that way. It's pretty amazing. All right. I'm going to go to a couple of questions that you guys asked. Marty says, could I please explain the difference between an EES and an ETIAS? Obviously, they're going to Europe. All right. An ETIAS is a short term of that would be the electronic travel authorization that's going to be kicking in this summer from the European Union. It'll be about anywhere from $22 to $26. They haven't set the price yet. It's tied to your passport. If you don't have it, you don't get on the plane, but it's good for your passport. It's linked to your passport number, and it's very much similar to the ETA that they already have in Australia for many years now, and the one they already have in the United Kingdom, which they just increased the price. All right, now, if you're just connecting planes in London, you don't need the ETA, but you know what? If you decide on the way you want to stop, you need it. Get it. It's good for the life of the passport. Now, you mentioned the EES. That's different. What they're doing in Europe now, which, by the way, is a good thing, they're asking you to register on the EES because the data that you give them means that when you get to a border crossing, like an airport where there's immigration and passport control, they're installing e-gates, electronic gates. You just go up there, it takes your picture, boom, you're in. No more standing in line to get your passport stamped. The only downside to that, for people who are sentimental slobs like me, no more passport stamps. They're art pieces now. So hold on to your passport. It's got historic value. All right. Marianne says, I'll be attending my nephew's wedding in the Netherlands in mid-May. Last week you said airfares would come down the week of January 12th. Well, it's the week of January 12th. Will they continue to fall in subsequent weeks? The answer is maybe. Remember, with so few travelers coming to the United States from overseas, 9 consecutive months of a drop. That means there are a lot of empty seats heading to the U.S. Conversely, a lot of empty seats heading back. The airlines have to adjust to that. You're going to see a lot of airfare sales heading, eastbound, and then coming back. And they'll probably be in place through the middle of May, which is about when you're going. So now you want to buy those tickets now. And remember, I've seen airfares right now as low as $170 each way to Paris from New York, right? Those planes are not full. So Bruce's experience just going to West Palm Beach is an indication of who's not coming to the United States, not just who's not going to West Palm. All right. Now, here's one from Doug, and I read it before coming on today because I did a little homework to help him out. And boy, does it prove the point I made last week about the misleading aspects of code share flights. Let me set the scene for you. Doug writes, I'm going to Hawaii in July. What's the best time to book a flight? And can you get a nonstop flight back from Hawaii to, in Oahu to Chicago or anywhere close to Chicago? So the first thing I did was double check the schedules and found out, yes, there are nonstop flights from Oahu to Chicago. And right now there's a huge battle going on between American and United in Chicago. American just announced 100 new flights. American does have a nonstop that goes from Honolulu to O'Hare. It leaves at 7 o'clock at night, gets in O'Hare at 7 o'clock the next morning, O'Hare time. The fare, don't go to the graphic yet, you're going to get blown away, is if you bought it today as a one-way ticket, because that's how I priced it out, is about $408. Now, remember what I say about code share flights? Anytime you go online, and when I went on the website, it said there were 2 nonstops. Wrong. There's actually one, but it shows up as 2 separate flights, one being a code share flight for Alaska Airlines. American Airlines flight is called Flight 74, right? The Alaska flight has the 4 digits, 6899, which means it's a plane operated by American. It's the same plane. Now, I talked to you last week about fare differential, like $500 difference between the United flight going from Washington Dulles to Frankfurt versus the Lufthansa flight, which, by the way, is operated by United, but the Lufthansa flight's $500 more. Because remember, a code share flight allows airlines a certain amount of inventory on the exact same plane operated by one airline. So an American Airlines flight from Oahu to Chicago can be listed as a Finnair flight, a Japan Airlines flight, an Iberia flight, a British Airways flight, a Royal Jordanian flight, and an Alaska flight. Probably a few more while we're at it. Okay. And they get to sell their seats on that plane at a different fare. Okay. Are you fastening your seatbelts? This is not a typo. I did not make this up. You're going to be blown away. This is what was on the Orbitz website this morning for the American flight going from Oahu to Chicago, leaving at 7 o'clock at night, arriving at 7 o'clock the next morning, and the Alaska Airlines flight, Flight 6899, the exact same plane operated by American. The American flight, the fare was $408.60 when I first saw it. Now roll the screen. Can you see what they want for the Alaska Airlines flight? For the same coach seat, Are you kidding me? $10,149 for the same plane. All the more reason you've got to make phone calls, check and verify. This is criminal and stupid. I mean, if I find anybody who spent $10,000 for a coach seat going between Oahu and Chicago, the word euthanasia comes to mind. Anyway, I wanted you to see that, to understand how crazy code share flights can be. It's that bad. It's that bad. Okay. Scrolling down a few more here very quickly. Yes, Ruth, I'll see you on March 29th in Dallas. All right, a couple of housekeeping notes. Hidden Hong Kong has premiered. You can find it on PBS. Check your local listings. And of course, very soon on Amazon, Apple TV, and YouTube. Here's a sneak peek. People may think they know this pivotal location in Asia with its nonstop energy, but I'm going to show you the Hong Kong you never knew existed, where the ancient and modern worlds often collide and coexist. A place that moves at its own rhythm and makes you think about the bigger picture. A small destination where we'll go beyond the stereotypes and find more than a few surprises, all waiting to be discovered. I'm Peter Greenberg, and this is Hidden Hong Kong, coming soon on PBS. Well, it's already there on PBS, so check it out. All right, now let's go to the photo of the week. I love this one. Thanks to Joanne DeBona, who took this shot. Coming up now. There it is. Everyone want to guess where that is? It's in the Schultern Summit in Switzerland. She took this standing at 9,744 feet above sea level. Nicely done, Joanne. We appreciate that. And if you think you have a photograph that qualifies for the photo of the week, you know what to do. Just send it to us. Photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree that it belongs up there with Joanne's, it goes right up there next to Joanne's. So I will see you next week for another global travel update from somewhere in the world. We'll find out between now and then, but we'll give you plenty of notice. Enjoy the rest of this week. Watch out for those code share flights. And remember, if you're chasing miles with a credit card, you might want to rethink that proposition when you have 61 people standing by for a seat that didn't exist in the first place. Thank you, Anthony, for doing the boards out in California. I'm in New York. I'll see you in a couple of days next week for the Global Travel Update. Bye, everybody.